Okay, hi everyone. Great to see all of you again here. Where's Eric? Eric. I have a slide on you also, so be prepared for that. Last time we met, last GameFest, my presentation at the time was called 2019, the year of the disaster. It was mainly focused on like all of the crazy creative that we saw, right, and how they transformed the industry. Funny thing is that a few months later, it actually started a much worse period in the world, and not in ads and creative, but hopefully we're past that. So I wanted to kind of focus on what didn't change since the last time that we met, and then what did change around creative. So the first thing that didn't change is the basic formula of life. Okay, so my cost of acquisition that needs to be lower than my LTV. Okay, that's true for everyone here wants to build a scalable app business. And the second part, which is like the first most important metric, is of course IPM, right? So the number of installs that I get for 1,000 impressions. Start from zero. The network average right now at ironSource is 13.7. All-time record was 146, probably made by Nadav and his team. And there's of course the theoretical limit of 1,000. That's God mode, right? Getting an install for every impression. When we break it down into categories, it's even becomes much more interesting, right? Because we can see in the past half year how it looks like in the different categories. So the blue part is like the median for each type of category. Of course, hyper-casual is in the higher range. Strategy games, it's gonna maybe choose to go to a different category if you can. But if we focus on one, let's take racing for example, then you can see that within the median, the low median to the high, you get games that are reaching 9 IPM and games will reach 28, okay? That's a 300% difference within the median, and I'm not talking about the highest one, which has 82 IPM. So for me personally, as someone who's like working around creative, it's always crazy to see how much of a big difference there is, what is the variance, because all of this in the end are competing for the same impressions, are competing for the same players, and within one category, there's such a big difference, right? So what didn't really change from the last time that we talked is that creatives can make or break your app business, right? This is still one of the fundamentals in our industry. One thing that also is everybody kind of think that last time I was always like hammering on you should like recruit creatives, build in-house teams, and I think most of you here probably did that, from at least the ones that I know. And there's a lot of new roles that came up. So suddenly we have like creative performance analysts and playable developers. People are fully dedicated for creatives, which was kind of is a growing and positive trend. And you can see it also in the numbers. So we kind of pulled up to see in the last 3 years what is the average of new creatives that are being uploaded per app. And you can see that in 2020 it was 32 per month, and in 2022 it's already at 46 on average per app. So all of these new teams are growing and the production is going up, and you can see it also reflected in the number of tests that are going up. Another thing that I also showed last time, sorry for anyone, by the way, that was here last time, I'm like recycling materials, but we talked about the automation. I think it's also something that we've heard a lot in this Appfest, that automation is taking over everywhere that it can. The only two things around creative that aren't automated yet are creative ideation and creative production. This is also last time I said maybe in 2025, so we're kind of getting there, and I'll talk about it in a second. So that part stays manual, and this is your creative manager. This is how they look like. So it's always like digging for new stuff and creating more stuff. And your human manager is kind of like this, probably, right? There's not a lot to do today with everything being automated. Slow, yeah. It took some time. Sorry if I offended anyone. The creative is always also, there's constant question about why and what worked, right? And what to create next. This is kind of the cycle that you live in, right? There's always that question of how do you translate all of that into the next brief, right? What do I want to do next? The second thing that didn't really change is the basic recipe of creatives, okay? And I'm going to try to lay it down. It's going to be a bit weird, but go with me. First one is extracting the marketing themes from the app or game. So take this beautiful game from Dream Games. There's a few marketing themes that I can extract from it, right? One could be the actual gameplay, maybe the progression, the social aspect, the challenge aspect. Anna mentioned yesterday about the gamer motivation model. It really ties into that. So how can I extract any marketing themes from the game? Today we're in Appfest, so I did also an app edition of this. Okay, let's take Walt, which is a delivery app. So I can either go and take the ordering of food as one of the marketing themes. I can go for like maybe order anything as a marketing theme. I can go and create a creative around fast and light delivery, or again, the social aspect of sharing. There's a lot of things that I can extract from the game or app. The second thing I would do is also to expand the total addressable audience, right? So first, let's look at cars. I assume there's that amount of people in the world that would be excited about cars or something around cars. There's probably a bit more people who are excited about zombies. There's a lot of zombie stuff also around, maybe because of the pandemic. But a lot of people probably been excited from explosions. I know that I would. But a lot of people really like shiny, bouncy balls 3D, right? So that's kind of the foundation for hyper-casual. A lot of people like that, right? So the more you can expand your marketing theme, you'll probably do better. The third thing is, Ryan mentioned it also, to adapt to the user context. So today there's a lot of channels and a lot of placements, and it's expanding. And I'm also going to talk about that in a second. But I think one of the things that creatives really need to take into consideration is also to understand what is the context of where I'm meeting the user, right? And the fourth and final thing is to spice it up, right? So I thought call it spice it up, or the things that work on all of us, right? So that's like we see stuff like ASMR, cringe, humor that works on all of us, or take it to 11, which is something that we're seeing a lot right now. So like things that are very extreme, like everything is like to the max, and adding it into the creative. You blend all of this together, and hopefully you get something that works, right? So that's kind of the basic recipe. So what did change from last time that we met in 2019? So the first thing, I think around 2020, we were almost in like creative utopia. We got all the data flowing from end to end and from the games. I remember we were talking about doing creatives which are tailored to a specific publisher. So going to that micro level of targeting, but then kind of things changed, right? And we had beautiful people like Eric telling us that the end is near and we should look for new jobs. And he was right that we should have taken it seriously, and we also took it very, very seriously. And it had like such a major impact or potential impact on creatives that it also creatives kind of got sidelined and became much less important, because will my campaign itself going to run is much more bigger as a question, but it had a lot of direct impact, right? Hopefully, and as we see, it's also kind of evolved, and it looks like it does going to take a better route, and it's actually going to be manageable, but it did really affect the way creatives were made. And the first point is that production versus testing is kind of the first thing where I think there's a change. So I think, again, 2-3 years ago, it looked kind of like this. There was not enough creative production, and there was a lot more capacity for testing and hunger for testing. And it really flipped. So most of the advertisers that we talked to today, they're actually producing a lot of creative, so production became much easier, much faster. But there's a problem around testing. So I think, first of all, effective and scalable creative testing needs a rework. I think it's something that we're hearing, by the way, also here in Appfest, we're hearing it a lot. That is something that is still not 100% solved. I said I'll keep it for another time, but we're also, of course, looking at this and trying to find a way to improve on that. Second thing is creative in a blurred signals environment. So I think also there's a few talks here that touched around that. So when I'm highly targeted with my creatives, it's very different to like a spray and pray approach. And it also kind of affects my creative in terms of how authentic or unauthentic it is, because I'm targeting a much broader audience and I don't really can, laser pinpoint the specific gamers who are be interested in my specific game. And I think for this concept, I call it an IPM cake. Okay, so it's something that you're seeing more and more in creatives today. So I'll explain. So let's take a look at this creative, for example. It starts like this, which is already weird, right? But it looks like a stories thing. And then, so that's maybe like a 2 IPM. Then it looks like a Sims game. Okay, that might be interested in that. Then it turns into a word game. So that might add like another 1 IPM, right? But in overall, it's just really, really weird, right? It's a real combination of a lot of like random stuff that probably talk to a broad audience that has that similarities, but it's kind of combination of all of these things together. Another quick example, that's a great creative. So that's for State of Survival. It has zombies, cars, gameplay, and Walking Dead. So actually using like a very famous show in order to, again, push more people to get interested to go and get this game, right? All of these probably add up and create that higher conversion that you need when you can't be that pinpointed. Third and last point that I think that changed is also the new formats on the block, right? So every channel today has a very different mix of creatives that are working on them. It's actually expanding, so there's a lot of new also formats that are being introduced all the time. And if we want to have like effective app marketing, it really fluctuates in terms of what really works and performs. And I think it's really interesting to analyze that from a creative perspective. So we start with Apple and custom product pages. The veterans here are like, when they heard about it, it's like, oh, wow, landing page, right? Like it's been around for like a lot of years, right? But it is really, really important, right? So we showed it yesterday. There was a huge adoption across the industry for this, and I think for the right reason. And from a creative perspective, I wanted to show this public case study that we have with Mytona, that once you connect your creative into the store, this is something that we were looking to do for a very long time. You can extend, right, the user journey, and you can create something which is much more seamless, and it really impacts the performance in a good way. And that's like a new and very interesting format. Like we've been trying to hack this in various A/B tests up until now, but now it's official, and it's something we can actually use, and I think it's very important. Second one, which is a much, much bigger shift from my point of view, is the introduction of short-form video. So TikTok came around, and more than TikTok itself, that it's kind of questionable, where is it going, and will it become much more significant? What is really interesting is that Instagram and YouTube are all adopted this format and this user experience that really is affecting the way people are consuming media. I took this quote from the earnings, which I think is very interesting. So that's Q2 earnings from Meta. They said that it's already over than 20% of the time consumed is within Reels, within the short-form video. And you can also see that it's so big and growing so fast, it's actually hurting their revenues, because advertisers and us as like app marketers are not really adapted fast enough to this format. So it became a very big part, and it's where people are consuming a lot of their time in the day. So kind of taking it back to the creative perspective, what does it mean? So first of all, I think the first thing about short-form video is that it's very content-driven. It's a lot about like real people, and it really creates a very big challenge to create something fast and good. Second thing, it really requires to be very creative and pushing to the limit in terms of like creating stuff which are really, really funny, because this is what you're competing with, right? These are the other posts that are there. Sound is back, so sound was always like kind of going down. We had like stats where like 70% only is on mute, but sound is super important, so that kind of also increases the challenge of creating something good. And the last thing is the hook. There's no time and you have to be very, very good at actually keeping the users. And I wanted to double-click on that in what is like the evolution of skipping. So a few years ago, we had like 30 seconds. You can show an ad until you can close it. All is good. You have time. I can start talking. I can build up trust. Where's Ryan? Right? I can. It's all easy. Then, interstitials, pre-rolls. So we suddenly go back down to 5 seconds. In short-form video, you have maybe 500 milliseconds, half a second to get the users. By the way, did anyone see the Harry Potter ad there? Okay, there's not really one, but it's really fast, right? So that's like something which is really, really, I think, changing the way that the content is consumed. And this is a slide where I show like a quote, and I'm smart, right? So but I think it is relevant. So in 1964, Marshall McLuhan, in his book Understanding Media, he said that he stated that the medium is the message, and it was how technology is actually changing the way that we are consuming content. And in that sense, I think the channel is the creative. And I wanted to show a few examples. So if you take, again, State of Survival, you can see how big is the difference between the creatives who are running on those channels and how the attributes of the channels are actually sipping down into the creative. Like on ironSource, it would be probably a playable because you're engaging within a game. But on the other channel, it looks different. Another like app example. So we have a celebrity, right? The Rock. So in TikTok, it's crazy. I don't know what the hell is happening here even. It's just like crazy, but this is probably what works. And you can see in other channels, totally different strategy on the things that work. So again, the channel is really influencing the creative itself. So how great app marketing teams work. I think in the past, between the creative people and the UI managers, we had like a folder. That's the only touch point between us, and I think it's the wrong way to do it. Because the actual workflow and the things that we need to produce are super complicated, especially when we put the fact that we need to run on so many channels and create so many different types of creatives. And this is why we kind of took all of our experience and everything that we've learned and we poured them into a platform that we're obsessing over that is being used by over 150 studios today and is there to cater all of these things in one. It's also when we went to build Supersonic, it was kind of our base and foundation to understand like this connection between the creative and the teams, and Sam mentioned how it also goes into the actual game. So all of this needs to be in one place. So 3 basic principles. First of all, we want to create one unified platform for all of your app marketing. So again, pull as much as you can into one dashboard from all of your data sources, including yours. I think it's like super important in order to create a really successful app marketing team. Second is to provide full access to the whole team, so having the creatives also see the data, be there. It's something we're talking about a lot, but it's actually hard to produce and do it if you don't have the right tools to do that. And the third thing is closing the loop in order to make better decisions for each creative, right? So having all of this there so you can actually take it back into the production and close it. So before we go party, it's another 5 minutes. Going back to automation, okay, going back to can we automate anything, I felt that we couldn't skip something which is talked all over, at least in my circles. Okay, so I wanted to talk about AI-generated images, and I think most of you probably know this. There's 2, like DALL-E and Midjourney, 2 really impressive AI programs that are actually able to generate images from natural language, and I think it's going to be probably very transformative, and kind of wanted to play with it with you. So let's make an IPM cake, an AI IPM cake. So I inputted cars, zombies, and explosions, and I want to see what happens, okay? And I got this, which is a really first thing that the computer doesn't get, there's two steering wheels in the car. And also, they were like a really weird couple, but okay, put it aside. Second one is much better. There's action, right? You can see that this looks a bit better. Again, faces are off, but that's like fully generated by AI. And the last one is pretty bad. It's pretty good, sorry. It's like, this is already has, like in terms of composition, the way it looks, it's actually really impressive as an image. There's also really funny things that happen here that if you notice, they're actually standing inside the car, right? So they're standing and sitting at the same time. This is like this is something that you can't think about it, but it generates something which is really, really good, right? And I just put the same words into it. It's just also not a bad icon. If King's Group is here and want to try it, can give it. And I extended it to a few more funny stuff. So a fierce blonde barbaric warrior, not bad. Okay, it's like, okay, didn't get right the art style, but we can fix that. And where's Playrix? A shocked, bald mustache butler, a kitchen with appliances who caught fire in a 3D mobile game style. Not bad, right? No designer touched this, okay? So that's crazy. So maybe we can join the UI manager, right? So start chilling, right, if we have this. But probably not yet, right? I think in the end, the thing about creative, and we talked also from the monetization side, there's always that human factor. And the question is, how much of what we're doing needs to be automated, and we can take it out so we can leave the people who are running it, the humans, on making the right decisions and bringing that extra edge that currently a computer can't do, right? So creative still plays a critical role in your marketability as something that didn't change, although we are facing a lot of stuff around privacy. We need to readjust because of that and see like how we can take it forward. AI-driven short-form video is taking over content consumption. I think it's worth taking a look because it's really influencing the way people are consuming content, the fastness, the pace, and also impacts creative, and we need to find a way to crack it. Great marketing teams make sure that everything is in one place, everyone is connected, and everyone is using the same platform in order to make decisions. And you can't fire your creative people yet, okay? I'm looking at you, Asi, our CFO. So thank you. Have fun. Great to see everyone.